have got to go. Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!
What about our protection right now? You and the police! Let me remind y'all, that's how whiteness works. Whiteness is the most violent system to ever breathe.
Got to go, hey, hey! Oh, we say pieces that got to go, hey, hey! Oh,
somebody's talking, you are not listening. In your head, if you're thinking of a response while somebody is talking, that is not listening. You need to listen. And to be honest with you, I don't even expect you to even say anything to me because I know actions speak louder than words. My mama didn't raise no fool.
Stop giggling and laughing every time we say something. Control it. Try.
Why did I heard her say that 11 o'clock this morning? She shouldn't have to be here at 5:30, still telling you to stop laughing.
It's not an accident that all of our administration is white.
Right.
It's not an accident. That shit is systematic as fuck. So why we sitting up in here?
I said I'm tired of white people talking about what black and brown people need. You don't know.
I'm just trying to respond
I'm
to the
letting you
crazy
know.
way.
Good morning, everybody. This is the Hake Report, and you can call in 888-775-3773 if you're watching live. We're going to be talking about false values. Hope you like it. La la la. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hake Report. I'm James Hake, filling in as me. And you can call in, as I said, 888-775-3773. 888-775-3773. And you can comment on any one of these topics. I'm going to have a list of topics for you because I want to talk about false values. This week we ran into a lot of phony values, and every week you're going to run into it because, as Jesse said on the show this week, he said that Satan imitates the light, and you'll see a lot of that. A lot of phony values. For example, with this school shooting that happened this week on, I believe it was Friday, there was a crazy school shooting at Santa Fe High School in Texas. And all of a sudden, all these people, again, Jimmy Kimmel and all of them are saying the NRA is paying off Republicans so that they don't pass gun control and do the right thing. And we all know that gun control does not work. It's evil. It violates all of our rights. And it only makes the problem worse. It's basically, it's a false value. And then you have all these people that are talking about the mental health problem. And there is a mental health problem. They say we want to get rid of the stigma of mental health and register people that are mentally ill with the government. But I don't trust that either because they've tried to call Trump mentally ill. If they try to call Trump mentally ill, think of what they'll do to the little people who can't defend ourselves. And then you have to consider the government is not trustworthy on the mental health issue because they listen to all these experts and they've eliminated homosexuality from the mental illness chart, which is not just a mental illness, it's a spiritual illness, but they've totally gotten rid of spirituality from the just reality of what people believe in. As far as common sense, they've gotten rid of common sense. They have gotten rid of transgender stuff as being mentally ill. You're no longer mentally ill if you're transgender. And they've gotten rid of all kinds of things. And really, somebody made a point that was true, that mentally ill people don't necessarily be the ones who commit the crimes. It's angry people are the ones who commit crimes. And it's particularly like mass shootings, mass murders, murder in general, assault, things like that, violent crime. Angry people do that. Now, of course, you get in a situation where you're desperate because you put yourself in that situation, such as many people who are drug dealers and stuff do. They may not even, some cops have argued with me that it's not anger that's driving this crime, it's just business. And that's kind of insane. They're the ones who want to get rid of the war on drugs. And there's a lot of good people that want to get rid of the war on drugs. And there may be some stuff that's misguided about it, but the point is, like, drugs are not good. And so, like, if you legalize it, it's kind of validating it. You can call in if you disagree, as I said. And, the number should be on the screen, but it's not. But it's all right. So I wanted to talk about a few things, though. Amber Rose, founder of the Amber Rose Slut Walk, many of the participants of whom Jesse interviewed on a Man on the Street several months back in October 2017. She had I guess it was her third annual Amber Rose Slut Walk, Los Angeles, last October, and it's coming up again in October this year. But Jesse interviewed many people from at the Amber Rose Slut Walk, and then he interviewed Amber Rose herself, and that interview came out this week. And Amber Rose tried to argue that single mothers can still raise good kids. And even though the stats show that single mothers statistically do not, with the exception of, people like Dr. Ben Carson, I believe he had a single mother. But even he's not as strong and bold as President Trump. So, And he tried to hit his mother over the head with a hammer. And so single mothers have it rough, and their children have it even rougher. And she tried to say, which is true, that it's a matter of parenting. But she tried to deny, which is not true, that you don't have to be married in order to be doing it right. You do have to be married to be doing it right. But she's totally thrown out these common sense values because she just thinks that we younger people are more enlightened than the older generations, even though it's totally not working. She claims that there's a lot of rape culture going on. Well, this rape culture wasn't really going on to the extent that it supposedly is today, back in the day. Now they say, it was just hidden. They kept it under wraps because women didn't have a voice. But I really doubt that because they didn't stand for, in the olden days, they didn't stand for being evil. Rape was not smiled upon at all. And it carried a harsh punishment. We had harsher punishments back in the days. Some of the Christians are pushing for, I've heard street preachers specifically, push for a death penalty for rape. But I don't know if most feminists want a death penalty for rape. So there's all kinds of things going on. And I also want to talk about the Jordan B. Peterson had a debate with Michael Eric Dyson. And they were in Toronto, I believe, at this event called the Monk Debates. And they hold a lot of debates. Basically, it's a bunch of liberals and Jordan B. Peterson, I don't know where he stands politically, arguing about political correctness. But they didn't really address the issue of political correctness. Stephen Fry was there, the homosexual actor. At times, he has a little bit of common sense because he's against political correctness. And then this other woman, whose name escapes me, was on the liberal side, far left side, with Michael Eric Dyson. And so they all argued and had this debate, and at one point, Jordan B. Peterson mocked the idea of white privilege because, of course, Michael Eric Dyson had to come up with this race stuff, racism, blah, blah, blah. And blacks are at a disadvantage, and so many others, he claims. And so they need political correctness. They need this as a tool to equalize the situation, because in order to get equality. And so Jordan B. Peterson mocks the idea of white privilege. He says, well, quantify how much my white privilege has helped me. Was it 17%? Was it 80%? What was it? And so, long story short, Michael Eric Dyson comes back and says, you're a mean, mad white man. And it is like, that was appalling to Jordan B. Peterson. He could hardly even look at him. And that's the screenshot that I took. There were many times when he was in this position, and I will get to your calls, but he was in this position where he's just like looking like that. And I'm looking away from Michael Eric Dyson. So it was just, he said that I'm not hurt, I'm appalled. Because Michael Eric Dyson tried to say, imagine the hurt you're feeling and make that times 1,000,000 or 100, 300 years of blacks being oppressed. And now we're freed. And now they say, oh, take care of yourself now. You're just freeing them into oppression. And so that's Michael Eric Dyson. And the reason I played the clip with all these students is because Michael Eric Dyson, I believe, is a professor. And he's a so-called preacher. And Jordan B. Peterson is a professor. And many of these students probably are fans or supporters of the feminist movement, which is and probably supporters even of the Amber Rose type of people, the slut walk people. These people of color were up in Evergreen State College. This footage that I played at the beginning of the show was from a year ago. Evergreen State College up in Olympia, Washington, hippie town, I think. White liberal college town. These black students say, hey, hey, ho, ho, these racist teachers have got to go. And they're just making a scene across this so-called day of absence, which is a day, it's kind of a knockoff of some play where black people disappeared for a day. And then the white people, and this was like during Jim Crow or something, and then the white people realized how much they rely on these people that they oppress. And so they wanted to flip it around and say day without white people. And instead of one day, this year they made it 3 days. Well, the college canceled it, but the students carried it on for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this past week. But I just wanted to show how entitled these kids are, students. They're not kids, they're adults at this college, attacking the white people, attacking the teachers, saying, stop laughing at us. Because it's very laughable, some of the way that they're acting and some of the stuff that they're saying. And Michael Eric Dyson doesn't point out this is part of the problem. He points out Tamir Rice getting shot as a so-called example of racism. Tamir Rice was the kid from Cincinnati, 12 years old, carrying a replica, I believe it was a pellet gun or a BB gun. They called it a toy gun. And he was pointing it at people. It looked realistic. And he was like 6 foot something, almost 200 pounds, or maybe more than 200 pounds. Looked like a 21-year-old to the cops. They come up. They claim that they told him to drop the weapon 3 times. Who knows? Maybe they were speaking over the loudspeaker. I haven't really gotten the full story. I'm not that interested in it. But they shot him, and they said, they shot him in 3 seconds, or, stuff like that. They're claiming that. But his hands were close to his waistband. That's not a good thing. You put your hands up. And his family, in any case, whether it was an unfortunate accident, an unfortunate error on the part of the cops, or whether Tamir Rice was acting erratic and got himself killed, I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but definitely Tamir Rice had a part to play in his own death. But the parents, I believe the mother is kind of in on this whole Black Lives Matter movement, which is a shame. And Michael Eric Dyson doesn't think that's a problem. And a couple of other news items. Glenn Beck was wearing the Glenn Beck, the Never Trumper, was wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat, and he was listing off the promises kept by Trump, and it's pretty remarkable. I hadn't really considered that. Some of the things that he said were promises that he fulfilled, and he fulfilled them in a big way. And so you can check that out. It's in my description of this video. Also, by the way, I mentioned that school shooting. Jimmy Kimmel blaming the Republicans. Ridiculous. And there's one more item, but I want to get to my calls. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, James, Greg, Wilmington. How you doing?
All right, Greg, how are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Am I coming across all right?
Yes, you're coming across fine.
Oh, good. I sent you a video of the royal wedding, and they have this like very emotional minister, and he's like, love, love, love.
Yeah, he was Episcopalian, and Episcopalians, I don't know any conservative Episcopalians. They tend to be very liberal, pro-gay, and all that stuff, and yeah, emotional. And you're talking about the royal wedding between Meghan Markle, the actress who's been divorced and now is remarried, and Prince Harry, who is like younger than her, I believe. And
yeah, no, absolutely. There's a guy, he's in a great position. He could marry a really nice woman like his dad Charles did, although he blew it with her. Instead, he marries that. Amazing.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yep. Desperation, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. And I was looking at it on YouTube, and all these people are, oh, that's so beautiful. That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And
I know, it's so ridiculous. It's really like makes me want to throw up. I saw like all the I don't watch a lot of TV, but I kept on seeing these headlines come up into my phone because I have these news apps running, and they talk about how beautiful this wedding was and how beautiful Meghan Markle was and her evening dress, she showed a lot of skin and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, who cares? There's a reason that we declared independence from Britain, and it was this royalty stuff.
It's really sad because I think at one time England was noble.
Yeah.
Just as Rome at one time was noble. And that's what happens to every country.
Yep.
And that kind of ties back to your thing with Evergreen College.
Yeah.
These idiots don't realize it's the money made from honest capitalistic people that gives them the excess that allows them to do the stupid things they do.
Yeah.
Because rest assured, if you were starving, you would not be playing those stupid games.
True. Yeah, they are crying racism, but they're very spoiled, and they're acting spoiled. And that's something that Jesse points out. Even these people that are in the Black Lives Matter movement, many of them are in much rougher situations than a lot of these college students, but yet they're still spoiled. And Candace Owens, Red Pill Black, she called them whiners, and kind of entitled whiners. And a lot of blacks took offense to that because she's maybe a middle class type of woman. She grew up upper middle class or something like that. But it's that stupid class warfare stuff where you can't speak because you're not poor. You've never been poor. Stupid.
No, absolutely. And then they talk about the 300 years of slavery has made them unfit to, go out and find a living. But what about the 150 years after that, where blacks, were doing well, as Jesse points out, and, were able to create their own businesses and get into professions? Where did that come from? And why did we erase those 150 years or 200 or whatever it was?
Yep. Appreciate it, Greg.
Okay, thanks, James. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. Yeah, what a mess. Okay, so somebody asked, what does pictures of a wedding have to do with politics? Or a private wedding have anything to do with politics? And this is like, I'm not sure where the person asking is coming from with it, but it's definitely just shows how shallow the media is and all the people that are so in with this thing is. And a lot of there's a controversy among the blacks that she's part black, but she's mixed, and she has the good hair, so-called, and stuff like that. She's not black enough. And so they're like, some of the blacks are like, yeah, we have one in the royal family now. And then others are like, no, this is a mixed breed. She's like whitewashed and stuff like that. And so there's this whole controversy. And so people get into these stupid arguments, and it really misdirects our focus. Like Jesse says, he asks these biblical questions because he wants us to like examine ourselves and think about like the things of God. And most people, that's like those don't get as much views on YouTube because like people don't want to think about that stuff and they don't want to examine themselves. And so it's just an interesting situation. Let me get to my other callers. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, James. It's Tim from Louisiana.
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
All right, man. What's going on?
Going well.
I wanted to touch on the royal wedding.
All right.
I feel like it's a heavy SJW moment because isn't that lady half black?
Yeah, she is. It's
so
weird because she is half black or some fraction of black. Yes.
So now we're gonna have not only people saying we was kings, they're gonna be saying we was queens.
Queens.
Queens. But yeah, look. So they have a bunch of people in chat going off about Jewish things and all the time.
Right.
Don't you think it's funny how people who are obsessed with Jewish people and what the Jews are doing are literally controlled by them?
Yeah, it's odd that you get some knowledge about something that's going on, and then you feel that you're enlightened, or you get hung up on that knowledge, and
right.
I think that's what's happening with a lot of these people. I know some people. I've known like 2 or 3 people in the media that have gotten into this type of thing, this the so-called Jewish question, and they are so hung up on it. Like they will get mad at you. They'll accuse you of dodging, of being controlled by the Jews, of trying to get those shekels and stuff like that. And they'll be so self-righteous about it that they don't. Yeah. That they reject all this, the spirituality that would get them, that would save them from that mess, and would help save America from the problems that they're complaining about.
You know what it reminds me of, though? It reminds me of like all the angry black people who want to like get angry at evil whitey and do a witch hunt against white people, like we're ruining their lives. And so, in their aspect, they're blaming Jews for all the facets of their problems in their lives, and why they can't move forward. Because I have a really good close friend of mine is like really obsessed with that. He's not in a good spot right now because he's so focused on Jews and what he's doing. And like, if he would just overcome that and not worry about it, he'd be able to be successful, but he won't do it.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with that.
I tell people to look at President Trump. He played the game. He played the politically correct game because he had to in order to succeed in business. And you have to be smart about things. And he may not have been as moral as he is today, but he knew how to get along with people. He knew not to make enemies with people who were not against him. And he knew that, he basically knew that there is wisdom in playing that politically correct game to an extent. And because you have to get along in the world. If you want to survive in the world, you can't be, be successful. You can't be stigmatizing yourself by being potentially labeled as anti-Semitic or blah, 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 blah. You have to be smart.
Yeah. You're only damaging yourself, and all that negativity and hate is not doing you any good at all.
Yeah, totally. They're blinded to reality. and it's a shame.
Like you said, they love it though. They love the idea.
Right.
Just like blacks love the idea of racism. They want to be victims, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
like victims.
It's kind of like we become what we hate. Like, many whites are so sick of blacks and Hispanics and gays and women getting into all this identity politics stuff, and men are getting sick of women being into it. And they're becoming what they hate. They become this identity politics thing. And they think the identity politics works. And I suppose there's some identities that you can take on, but you definitely, you have to be rooted in who you really are. Like, most people don't know who they really are. Like Jesse says, they've lost their identity. They don't even love their parents, yet they want to love their race, or they want to love masculinity. But they don't even love their parents or anyone else.
They want to identify with an idea instead of their true self.
They call race their extended family, but they don't even love their own immediate family.
They don't even love
it's really
themselves.
backwards. Yeah.
It's like this basement dweller white person taking credit for a brilliant philosopher's work. Like,
that's a good point too. Yeah,
I'm like, you have to be yourself.
Right. We have to return to greatness. And
it's just like black saying, "Oh, we was kings, dude."
Right.
And like all these stupid white people are saying, "Oh, we was philosophers and shit." It's the same thing. Like this, it's so funny how it's like a parallel right there.
Right. Appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for the input, and good luck. Well wishes to your friend who's in that situation.
He's gonna make it.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
I'll see you. No problem.
All right. Let me get to my other callers. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from? Hello.
John.
Hey, John.
I'm calling from Louisiana.
Louisiana. How are you? Is this your first time calling?
This is my first time calling, and
Right
I'm
on.
great.
Cool. What'd you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the angry black people and try to give some perspective, but I'm not defending that behavior.
Right. Okay, go for it.
Okay. The NAACP back during the civil rights era, it was very organized, it was structured. I think there was a white person head of it, but they had one voice and everything went through the NAACP. So when people had complaints or whatever, they had one goal and they got it accomplished. Like with the Rosa Parks thing, they talk about how there was a 15-year-old black girl who was pregnant and she refused to give up her seat. But the NAACP didn't hop on that because they didn't want white America to see blacks in that light. They had to get Rosa Parks to do it, elderly black woman.
What year was that, by the way?
I don't remember.
Was it in the
like
60s?
The mid 1960s.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to be the 60s. But the thing about that is, modern day, the NAACP doesn't exist anymore virtually. It's non-existent. And we have Black Lives Matter, which is a ridiculous thing that has all these different people saying different things, but they don't know what the goal is they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And it just leads to anger and lashing out. And this isn't limited to one race or anything like that, but it's like these people have a genuine concern, but they don't have a single voice. They don't have a route to send it through. And so everybody gets heard thanks to social media, and it's so easy to go with whatever's popular, and whatever's popular might not necessarily be for you. They might be trying to gaslight you or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's why I just wanted to talk about, okay, those angry black people, like they have legitimate anger, but the way that they're going about resolving their issue, I agree. It's nonsense and it's chaos.
You know, I don't even think that their anger is legitimate. Their anger is misdirected. I don't think they know what they're angry at. I mean, they can list off all of these stats about, how blacks get pulled over more, get shot more, or are less likely to get hired if they have a black name and stuff like that. But those aren't really valid issues because it's not something that they've personally experienced. And even if they have, they're not really looking at it in a fair-minded way. They're taught to believe in this racism thing. And so they are, they make these assumptions that it's race. For example, Michael Eric Dyson brought up Tamir Rice shooting as a valid example of so-called racism. He didn't mention the word racism. I noticed that the black intellectuals are smart enough to stop using that word. Now they use implicit bias and they use, disparity, stupid words like that. But it's all deception. It's all around the same concept. And so people are fed these lies, and it's kind of like the whites being mad at the Jews. Like they're fed this information, or they eat up this information because they're already angry and they're looking for, kind of in a way, looking for things to be mad at. Information can feed your ego in a big way, and you get mad at stuff that doesn't even really affect you. Like media loves this. They love outrage over stuff. Like none of us are truly at all affected by, for the most part, Trayvon Martin or George Zimmerman's situation. But that was such a huge story because it fed our ego and emotions. And so, like, people have that anger, and that's what Jesse's whole purpose is to get rid of this anger so that you can see clearly.
All right. I don't have the anger myself, but that Trayvon Martin thing, that bothered me because I live in a affluent neighborhood. I worked hard to get here. I'm one of the few people of color. I'm young.
Yeah.
So I've had issues where people have asked me if I lived in my house.
Right.
While pressing the button to open my garage. I've had people stare at me, give me frowns, and I can't say it's necessarily racism, but
right.
If I'm not in a cheery, smiley mood, I become a target for whoever may have saw the news or whatever and saw that, oh yeah, black people are out of control,
right,
or something like that. And that, I guess that goes back to what you're saying about being fed lies.
Yeah,
but if we were in, let's say, a different neighborhood or a different place, I could completely understand calling the police on a suspicious-looking person, because statistically, black people are more likely to commit crimes, and they're more poor. They're poorer per the race,
right,
so they're more prone to resort to crime.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, wait. I don't want you to think that. Well, I dispute the concept that poverty causes crime, or tempts people more to crime. It's people are poor for the same reason that they commit crime, is because they're immoral. But I will say, like, this is why you got to cut slack to people, because maybe they're not cutting you slack, maybe they are, maybe they're not thinking anything, but you just got to cut slack to people because you recognize that blacks are per capita more likely to commit crime and stuff like that, or more likely to be poor. And in Trayvon Martin's case, he didn't work hard to get there. He was brought there because he was suspended from school for misbehaving. I forget what his infraction was. It might have been fighting or something. But I believe he should have been in jail, but he did not belong out there. And so, and he may well have been committing burglaries. He was caught with a burglary tool and I believe 12 items of women's jewelry. So Trayvon Martin is nothing like you, I'll say. And this is why you got to cut slack to the history, too. There was a history where blacks were forced to be segregated from whites and whites from blacks. And this is part of the reason why, because there are phenomena where different races behave in different ways and at different times, depending on, the out-of-wedlock births and all that stuff. And by the 60s, it's interesting that this 15-year-old wouldn't surrender her seat because she was pregnant out of wedlock. By the 60s, that's when it was becoming an epidemic among blacks. which is interesting. And and back then they had shame and they wanted to focus on at least presenting a moral front. And nowadays that's gone even from whites. But
yeah, I agree with you on that moral point.
But back in the day, they wanted. This is part of the reason that they wanted this separation, because there is too much of a temptation for disunity, suspicion, this phony idea of racism. When you mix the people together, this is why so many in the alt-right want to separate. They want to have their own white country, because this suspicion among people in the fallen state is too big of a temptation. It's too prevalent. It's too easy of a wedge that the communists and, the dividers, the hateful leaders like Michael Eric Dyson and others want to use in order to separate and divide and conquer. And so I just encourage you to cut the whites some slack if they happen to look at you like the wrong way.
But hey, man, even if the alt-right created a state and it was all white,
they're still going to have problems.
They still would find a way to make a new group of minorities
and be miserable. Yeah, totally.
Whether it be economy, whether it be what part of whatever they live.
I completely agree.
I think that's just human nature.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the first things that I said when Jesse brought up the concept that racism doesn't exist. People divide even amongst families. Even if you're at say you're at one school, and so you're in a football game against another school, you're going to hate that other school. Say if you're in one school in one classroom, all in the same classroom, you're going to click. People are cliquish, like what you referenced. People are gonna divide and fight amongst each other as long as they have evil in their heart.
All right, cool, man. Cool.
All right, appreciate it, John.
All right.
You gonna watch church?
This is my first time seeing it. I might.
All right.
I might.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Recommend it.
I saw the Amber Rose thing, and I
nice.
almost had a stroke watching it. So yeah.
Were you more on Jesse's side or Amber's side?
Oh, Jesse's side, of course. I come from a single-parent home. Yeah.
Wow. Man, that's cool. It's nice to hear from you, John.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
All right. Call again. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Very interesting call. That was actually a really good call, because you hear all these people that really are honestly dealing with this situation, and yeah, you want to tell people to quit crying, but you also have to understand where people are coming from. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Maze.
Hey, Maze.
Can I get something straight first from Greg, or whatever his name is?
It's Greg from Wilmington, Delaware, and he was trying to meet up with you.
Really?
Yeah, like a few weeks ago.
I hope God touches him and really he meets up with him, not me. But when it comes to Prince Charles and Harry, wasn't Prince Charles' wife married before the one that his wife he has now? So what's the big deal?
Oh, Prince Charles? Oh, I don't know. That's wrong, too. They shouldn't have done that. I thought I was mixing up Prince Harry with Prince Charles.
Yes, well, he did the same thing his father did, I think.
Such a shame.
Look like it. So was it
such a bad way to live.
So you have a new duchess. People don't like it. Get over it, is all I got to say about that part. And then when it came to...
Is that what she's going to be called, Duchess?
She is the Duchess. She doesn't have her... She's not... she's a Duchess now. Yes.
She's not Princess?
She's a Duchess.
Okay, good. At least she's not a princess.
Okay. So the world is going to be... It's like I said. Like people like the one in Delaware. He's messed up anyway. If you weren't messed up, you will see it and take it as something that God did or something great that happened. But you want to make it negative. So if
you think that wedding is great?
Wrong with you.
Wait, you think that God did that wedding and that wedding is great between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle?
Everything that's done is done by him.
And that's great?
The evenings that the heathens do. But people don't realize that they're heathens and doing devil work, because he would not be pleased with all of the things that they're looking at and people are saying and doing. Because you can't, if you want to get through the gate, heavenly gate, you're going to be all left down here in hell because of the things that you do, even when you point at the black community.
Right. That's true. Yeah, we got to get ourselves together.
Yeah, you got to get yourself together
Yep.
because of the things that's done, but you want to put the blame on somebody else.
But I wouldn't
But you
call
need to
that.
look at your own fault.
But just because I got issues, I'm not going to pretend that this wedding between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry is great. I'm not going to pretend that's great or that God did it. I mean,
Well, it's not
God
good.
allowed it, whatever. But
Thank you.
that's it.
So why you want to work? Why you want to speak against what the things that he do, and unless you're a heathen?
That who do? God?
The things that God, yes.
But God didn't do
Everything
that.
that
He allowed
happened-
it. You could. That's dumb.
It's just like he
Okay,
allowed for
okay.
Trump to-
Then Maze, God allowed me to talk crap about blacks. So what you
Yeah,
gonna do
and
about
he
it? Why
allowed
don't you
me
be
to talk-
grateful? That was great
He
that
talk-
God
he-
let me do that.
And he also allowed me to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. You just run your mouth. And he allowed me to do the same thing. And
Oh,
that's
yeah?
why I do what I do. Yes.
Well, God allowed me to say, you're wrong still.
And also, I say the same thing that you need if you don't know and you're just talking and you don't understand, you're always gonna be going to hell.
True. Speak
so
for
if
yourself.
you want to choose to do that, that's your business.
All right,
But
thank you, Maze.
if somebody tell you better, you know better, then you do better. That's just how things happen.
Right.
But tell that one over there in Philly to get over his whatever he's going on that's going on in his head. It happened and nothing he can do about it but complain and moan and groan.
All right,
He
thanks,
like
Maze.
that.
Take
Okay,
care.
have a good.
You too. Maze makes me dizzy. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, James, it's Mark. How's it going?
All right, Mark. Good to hear from you.
Likewise. Yeah, I was talking to my mom last night, and it was kind of funny. She's become much more of a political conservative recently,
Okay.
and
Nice.
she was like, "Man, why are these people leftists? Like, she doesn't get why? You know, why would somebody want to be like?" She was talking about someone who's very angry, and I have a theory.
All right.
I think it's really appealing to people to be like, your failures, your shortcomings, your anger is not your fault. It's that guy's fault over there. It's the Jews. It's the whites. It's rich people. It's men. It's whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So, because it's okay to hate Hitler. It's okay to hate your slave master. You know? It's what Andrew Breitbart used to call cultural Marxism, the oppressor versus the oppressed, right?
Yeah.
And that's the draw. That's the draw. People have anger inside them. No one likes anger. You know, I'm sure in the 1930s, the Nazis didn't wake up saying, "We hate Jews, we're so evil, let's go to the gas chamber." No, they were convinced that the Jews were their problem, you know?
Right.
They were convinced. And I'm starting to feel more like Jesse every day because I grew up in the 80s, you know? And back then, there wasn't all this, like, Hispanic victimhood, you know?
Right.
I remember when my parents would say, "You won't see a Mexican begging on the street." And I remember for years I didn't.
Right.
And now they're everywhere,
Yeah.
you know? They're everywhere. And everyone, like in that video you were showing, oh, black and brown. And I'm just in my mind, I'm like, do not include me in that stuff.
Right. That's
You know?
true.
And, like, you know, I forget because, you know, time goes by, but, like, I was thrown down on the ground by cops. You know what I mean? I had all kinds of things happen to me that didn't happen to my white passenger friends. You know, and I thought nothing of it.
Right.
I wasn't, like, mortified. It didn't traumatize me. And, like, you know, people are like, "Oh, he gave me a look." Not talking about your caller. I'm talking
Right.
about other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? That's the oppression that you went through? You know, someone gave you a look.
Yeah. Or the Fallen State episode with the Black Lives Matter supporters. My hair.
Right.
My hair was I had an afro, and so my employer didn't like it.
And they recommended a different hairstyle.
Right. So
They
impressive.
didn't force. They didn't say you're not allowed to have an afro. They
Right.
recommended.
Yeah.
And I mean that. And I'm just, like I said, like, this is crazy.
It's a shame, because like any sensible person knows that people are generally cruel to each other, or willing to be cruel to each other in the right situation, and or People are very often misread others' intentions and read in the worst into others if they're predisposed to hate them.
Yeah, like I used to think it was all about the government handout, but I don't know many people that, think they're balling out because they have welfare. They think they're poor.
Yeah.
They're not going to go get a job if they're going to make the same amount of money that they get for not working.
Right.
But they're not like super happy with their wealth. It's not about the free stuff. It's about their anger being justified.
Yeah.
It's about, no, I'm not angry. I'm a victim. I'm oppressed.
Yeah, and that mindset is really debilitating.
Right.
People don't even have the motivation or the wherewithal to improve their own lives, which is so easy to do, I think, if you have that wherewithal. But I guess it's it's God-given in a sense.
Yeah, it's something Jordan Peterson says all the time. He says, you cannot be a victim and do your best. You can't blame other people for your problems and be successful. You can't do both. You must choose one.
Yeah.
Which is why people who are on government dependency tend to stay on government dependency. Obesity is a problem among people who receive welfare. I mean, it's like so obvious that it's not some temporary, I had a couple of, bad months, I got in a car accident.
Right.
It's like this horrible way of life.
It's a lifestyle. There was one point, I want to get your reaction. There's one point where Jordan B. Peterson likes to target identity politics as possibly a very, very dangerous ideology, for lack of a better word, and group identifying with your group. And Michael Eric Dyson brought up the point that, well, if that's the case, why do we have nations? Why do we have countries? And he kind of defeated his own.
He didn't answer the question.
Right. He defeated his own argument because if blacks would do a lot better if they identified as Americans as opposed to blacks in America. But he doesn't want to acknowledge that. But he made that point, and that was interesting because that's something that I think maybe that's why Jordan Peterson is not strong on the Trump train. He doesn't seem to be a all-out Trump supporter. He said I almost voted.
He said he would have voted for Trump.
Yeah, he said that, but he said that he thinks that he would have voted for Trump. I heard an interview with the Daily Beast.
At the last second, yeah, he would have.
He was going to go with Hillary to keep the status quo because he thought that was safe. But then she was so into the identity politics that he probably would have voted for Trump last minute. And that was interesting. And maybe he's unduly afraid of protecting home first, identifying with America because he's Canadian. He was raised Canadian. And he used to be, I think he used to be socialist. So maybe he has a little bit of stuff that he has to get past.
He calls himself a liberal, or he has in the past at least. But I think what's important there is Michael Eric Dyson, he's just the typical, he's the epitome of an intellectual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He totally is.
He doesn't answer any questions. He tries to use as many big words as possible.
Right.
And he tries to come off as smart, but he doesn't answer the question. And he'll even acknowledge certain things when, in that debate, Jordan B. Peterson, he was kind of letting him know, you're not answering this very fundamental question.
Right.
And what Jordan B. Peterson said was that he has no interest in group identity, whatever it is. Even though he is part of some, he's only interested in individuals.
Right.
He's interested in individual rights and therefore individual responsibility.
Yeah.
Which Michael Eric Dyson, barely glassed over. He's like, yeah. I'm into individuality.
Total lip service.
Slavery, but blah, 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 blah,
right.
blah, blah. So it's like people that say, I support the Second Amendment, but I want to ban 90% of all guns.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then you don't support the Second Amendment.
Right.
Then you don't believe in individuals, you know?
He's definitely people speak out of both sides of their mouth all the time, and they outright lie and contradict themselves. And Michael Eric Dyson, I don't know where he learned to communicate that way. It's very interesting to me It's
I was thinking the
mostly,
same
if not
thing.
all, lies. But it's I don't know.
But I was thinking he's good at it.
It's crazy.
Like,
I've
he's
never
got these
heard
people
anybody talk
cheering.
like that.
Yeah.
And he uses words that he could have used a much simpler word.
But
Anyways,
like that's what's so great about Peterson and Shapiro and Dinesh.
right?
They say it so
They speak
people
English.
can understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what's great about Trump. He speaks at a 4th grade level. And I heard that I heard that 5th grade level is supposed to be, you know, the best for like being a good speaker and yet still relating to normal people. So maybe 4th grade is even more persuasive, was according to I heard that from Scott Adams, I think. So anyways, and then I heard that Ted Cruz speaks at like an 8th grade or maybe even 12th grade level or something like that. Anyways, appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
All right, James.
All right, take care. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Odessa from Los Angeles, California.
Hey, Odessa. Nice to hear from you again.
You too. Do you consider Amber Rose to be a wealthy woman?
Yeah, I do. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Amber Rose. She came off as a nice person, or at least tries to be nice, and I could tell that she could be very mean if she wants to. She has no problem with that. I mean, which you have to do if you're going to survive in the black community, I guess. But it was remarkable that she came off as more honest than like Michael Eric Dyson, for example. Anyways, but yes, I do consider her wealthy.
Okay, so you know, she's talking about single mother, putting all that jazz, and I think she's negating the fact that it's a lot easier to be a single mother when you're wealthy.
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
noticed that a lot of the women who are glorifying like single motherhood are like wealthy women who can afford to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's that's very true, and she's trying to do her best, and that kid. I forgot to grab a picture of her son. Grab one if you can. He looks like a little he looks like a little girl, kind of like a girly type of a boy, and it's such a shame. It's sad to see. I mean, every parent makes errors growing up. I wanted to make this point that, like, she made the point that bad parenting is the problem, not single mothers. Well, single mothers are definitely a problem, but when she made that point, I kind of agreed with her. Yeah, there she had this boy with his bleached blonde hair. Anyways. I lost my train of thought. Oh, by the way, like there are really bad parents who are in 2-parent homes, and Jesse makes this point all the time. If the father is weak.
I kind of agree with that too. Yeah. Oh Lord, that's him, huh?
Yeah. She's seeing it.
Oh boy.
So I have to point out, like, look at
You look just like her.
Yeah, that's what it's exactly what Jesse said in The Fallen State. He said, single mothers remake. She's laughing at this. Single mothers remake the children in their image, and that's exactly what she's doing. But you got to look at Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, and Will Smith is a total pushover beta male. It's shocking to know like how bad of a father and husband he is, to let this woman, Jada Pinkett Smith, who's all into this racism stuff, run wild and be feminist and stuff like that. But we're still running, okay? Are we? Okay. I want to point out that, like, their kids, Jada and Will Smith's kids, are not doing well. Like, one of the kids dresses like a transgender.
Like a homosexual.
Yeah, and I don't think he is. And then, like, I don't know. It's a total mess. Like, and they're into the black thing. So, like, if you get into that, you can really mess up your kids and still be wealthy. And yeah, it is easier. You don't struggle as much financially and with stress over but you still find a way to be stressed out, even if you're wealthy.
All right, so can I ask you a question?
Yes.
It's just a question.
All right.
Okay, so do you think single parenthood is okay if you got money?
No, I really don't think so. Because look at what she's done with her kid. I think that I think it complicates. I think you may get away with some stuff on a physical level, but it really you have to do it right. I mean, there's a reason that you don't that it's not wise to experiment with morality. You know what I mean? Like they want to a lot of liberals want to reject the throw out the baby with the bathwater on what Jesse says God's order is. And it doesn't work. They're experimenting.
Yeah, I don't keep up with all of this stuff, but is that Wiz Khalifa's son?
Yeah, it is.
Oh boy!
Isn't that sad? I can't picture which one Wiz Khalifa is. Can you pull up a picture of him? I want to see him. But I can't imagine him being happy with this boy coming up like this.
I don't think he's happy either.
Yeah. It's sad. What a shame.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Odessa. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
By the way, Trump called MS-13 animals, and they are animals. And I just saw this feature on Fox News that, like Andrea Mitchell, you know, that older white liberal woman who helped host a debate. She helped moderate a presidential debate. She was still saying, she's still acting like Trump was talking about all illegals being animals, which we all know that all illegals are not animals. They're just illegals. There are some I assume are good people, as Trump said. So that's a shame, because it's very eye-opening though, because the media is really ridiculous, like beside themselves with this thing. They hate Trump. Oh, and by the way, like Meek Mill, the rapper, who is kind of an out-of-control criminal, got himself in jail. Black female judge kept putting him in jail. I guess he got out now. And he was going to visit with Trump in the White House about so-called criminal justice reform and prison reform and stupid stuff like that. And, you know, Trump likes to talk to all sides, right? He can talk with Black Lives Matter. He can reason with them to an extent. But Meek Mill got talked out by the blacks. There were many high-level blacks that called him up and urged him to consider his image, according to the reports from TMZ, including Jay-Z, who is a disgusting person, married to Beyonce. And Jay-Z is like the anti-Kanye in a way. Jay-Z may know how to behave himself in the public where he doesn't cause people to hate him the way that Kanye has acted out in the past, but Kanye is more, in a sense, down to earth in that he loves Trump. He can see that Trump is a real guy, a real person, a dragon energy. But Jay-Z and so many other blacks, including apparently Meek Mill, who, by the way, he met with, when he was in jail, he met with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick went to visit Meek Mill in prison. Meek Mill became kind of a symbol of the prison reform movement, in a sense. Even though he's a criminal, like a drug dealer, stuff like, I forget what all he's done. He may not have done drugs, but he's definitely done some things that are wrong. So Jay-Z bullied Meek Mill into not meeting with Trump in the White House. And they are right in the sense that it would have been a great photo op and Trump would have convinced Meek Mill to see that he was a good person because Trump is a good listener. So in a sense that Trump has a habit of winning people over, at least temporarily, to his side. Trump met with that Democrat, the pro-abortion Democrat who has a homosexual son, Doug Jones, who was elected by 98% of black women in Alabama. Trump met with him, and after that, Doug Jones disagreed that Trump should step down because of the allegations against him. There were Democrats in the Me Too movement who wanted Trump to step down, but Doug Jones, even though he's a far-left, pro-abortion Democrat, pro-gay apparently, his son is, and he did the right thing by Trump after meeting with him. And so Jay-Z is rightly afraid that Meek Mill would do the right thing if he were allowed to meet with Trump. So he scared him out of doing it because it would hurt his image and it would be counterproductive to our cause. And it would, because Trump brings a bad cause and brings it closer to the side of good, whereas Obama totally didn't. He invited all these disgusting people like Black Lives Matter to the White House. And that's why evil people like Jay-Z are friends with Obama. Jay-Z and Beyonce, talented people, but disgusting people. Such a shame. But I think that wraps up my show. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for the feedback, by the way. I will be responding to your comments. I've been busy, but tune in to church in 1 hour at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Take care, guys.
We'll be right back.